So the essence of social power should be a capacity to produce effects to another zone. The social power of person or business often results in the being copied by others, and such power can typically be created to the level of the skill, knowledge, information, or fame that they possess in the desirable area of expertise. The source of social power is people. It is from people's aspiration, energy, and capacity that all society derives its power. When the individual capacity is organized and channeled through a system, it becomes a social power. In this way, society is a huge reservoir of all our energies, skills, capacities, knowledge, intelligence, and aspiration. Power, as I said yesterday, very relative. It depends on the specific understanding, recognition of the quality in which one would motivate others to change in the way he intends. French and Raven, as I said yesterday, introduced a type of the social power. The social power is directly related to social responsibility. Responsibility is associated equally to individuals or organizations as well as to ethics. Scientists are often perceived as having a special power and authority. Thus, one of the most important powers today is science and technology, and that's considered as expert power in classification. Social responsibility is an idea that has been of concern to mankind for many years. Over the last few decades, it has become of interesting importance to the business world, named corporate social responsibility. The social responsibility of the social powers of social responsibility relies on ethics, which suggests that an organization or individual has an obligation to act for the benefit of society, such to maintain a balance between the economy and the ecosystem. The classical view states that an organization's only social responsibility is to maximize profit. On the other side, there is the social economic view, which states that an organization's first responsibility is to maintain and improve the environment in which it conducts its operation. The second is to maximize profit. Power of social responsibility can be argued by many needs for public expectation, long-run profits, and so on, so on. I'm not going to read all of them, but it's interesting that we can argue against social responsibility because it has a violation of profit, which is not easy topic today, the dilution of purpose, cost, too much power, and so on. The social responsibility of researchers arises from the fact that they are carried out in the name of society as an expression and reflection of the society needs, interests, priorities, and expected impacts. The social responsibility of researchers often extends beyond upholding the ethical standards of society. The typical issue is the Upsala case. End quote. Companies have a policy of social responsibility known as corporate social responsibility, by which they agree to follow their business such to benefit the community at large, being a vital element for business corporation. There are several factors which explain the growing interest in corporate social responsibility. The first is the new concept and expectation of citizens, consumers, public authorities in the process of globalization, growing nationalism, and industrial change. Another factor is the interesting influence of social criteria on the investment decisions on individuals and institutions as investors or consumers. Furthermore, there is a growing concern about environmental degradation. If society is conscious and ethical, then business are forced to behave responsibly. Social responsibility and responsible research conduct should be two essential sides of ethical science and therefore social power. Science crosses new borders and thereby calls fundamental ethical views into question. This focuses on the tension between good and bad, uses of scientific concepts, theories, and methods, what is called internal. Scientists also have external social responsibility toward the larger community. Research ethics involves the application of fundamental ethical principles, where ethics is usually understood as rules for distinguishing between right and wrong. The most researchers are aware of their social responsibility, but they disagree on how much politics should interfere with their work. In the contemporary world, it became accepted practice that novel research programs should include ELSA, that's ethical, legal, and social aspects of science. There are two different ideologies when it comes to research and public utility in the scientific community. An ideology of internal control, that research must be motivated by curiosity, definitely. And ideology of external control, that social factors such as politicians and organizations determine what research should be done and how. It might become very fashionable driven, especially concerning funding and research. We are all, as a scientists, aware of that. The good scientific practice includes the sharing of scientific results with others, whereby everyone in practice is able to test, challenge, and use scientific results, now under the name kudos, that's universalism, disinterestedness, organized skepticism, and so on. Many professional associations, government agencies, and universities have imposed ethical codes, rules, and policies related to research ethics. I just listed following. You are aware of many of them: honesty, objectivity, integrity, and so on. Since I am asked to shorten the speech, I won't list all of them. Behind the ethical codes, there are codes of practice called professional responsibility codes, which are usually adopted by a profession or by government or non-governmental organization to regulate that profession. I list some of them, are very interesting. Minimize harm, proper conduct, loyalty, interdependency as a courage or independency. Many international treaties, agreements, declarations, and judgment intended to regulate the ethical principle of scientific research and development, such influencing social power. The inspiring book is The Hope in the Dark Time, written by David Krieger. He listed many of them and discussed many of them. I just listed few of them, such as Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Declaration for Global Ethics, the Russell-Einstein Manifesto, Appeal to End the Nuclear Weapon, and such of Human Responsibility, Cronin Manifesto, and so on. The ethics and moral might be seen to some of the same to many. That's very often a mistake even with the highly educated people. While moral defines personal character, ethics stress the social system in which those morals are applied. In other words, ethics treats standards or codes of behavior expected by the group to which the individual belongs. Thus, ethics as a part of social power can be differently defined for different groups. For example, scientists working at universities are guided by code of ethical sciences. I think has really wrote a lot of it, and he set some universities, standards for university research. There's a close connection between researchers, freedom of research, freedom of teaching, self-governance, the unity of science, and so on. Presently, the focus of US ethics education in science and engineering tends to be on the individual and the responsible conduct of research, what is called microethics. What has been criticized because it is insufficient, since it does not adequately recognize the larger societal context of which research is part. In Europe, ethics education in science and engineering is grounded firmly on the microeconomic approach. That means the concept of social responsibility of scientists and engineers. Let me come to a real topic, that's power of knowledge. We are all aware that progress could not have taken place without science. There can be no doubt about increased social significance of science in modern society. Knowledge, all types of knowledge, including strict scientific knowledge, are not per se self-revealing. Like technology, knowledge cannot be regarded as this, a machine, to be called upon to solve the social problem that it has very often itself created. These days, really, that is one of the biggest problems of the society, and especially it might be even bigger in the future. Like technology, scientific knowledge is essentially perfection without purpose. Thus, the basic question to ask, knowledge from whom And for what? We are thrown back to the underlying problem of power and its substantive legitimacy and its value orientation. Science can clarify the issue, calculate the relative costs of the various alternative courses of action, show the best way of implementation, but it cannot take away from us the human responsibility of choice and decision. Let me just say that Epicurus remarked that science is important because only science can give us happiness. In his letter to Ptolemais, Epicurus says that being able to explain a phenomenon is more important than its actual occurrence. I think we might agree even today with that as a scientist. Friedrich von Hayek sees the Industrial Revolution as a manifestation of a trend in which science and technology, but particularly science, became the reference for all human knowledge and for any moral obligation. Frederick Mayor remarks, quote, "We live in the age where science daily demonstrates its power. The knowledge it has given us has conquered distances, abolished want, reduced diseases, and opened doors to understanding the mystery of nature. But this indispensable interaction between science and politicians can flourish only in the free and democratic society." Quote finished. Power today exploits and opposes, not by use of direct action, but simply by ignoring, by failing to intervene, by refusing to take action, by taking refuge behind complex and perfectionist procedures through which legal formalism and politician paralysis support each other. Scientists too should be greater sensitive towards the social and political impact of their action, what is not definitely the case. Science has become a group enterprise and an organizational weapon capable of deeply influencing the political power structure, the economic system and production, and the overall society and the natural climate. What has to be understood is the new social function of the science and of technology's applied scientific knowledge. We still talk and think in 18th century philosophical, economical, and political terms. We all time quote the biggest economics from the 18th, end of the 18th and beginning of the 19th century. So that's from capitalism, change from capitalism to socialism, and do not realize that the new social relations can no longer be accommodated within these categories. The ideological conceptual framework of the 18th century is absolute. It must be realized that science, scientific knowledge, and technology as applied science are the new faces of social and political power. Science and scientists often serve the existing power. But in doing so, they change the nature of the power, and those who wield it, the very source of power, and the ways in which power is being exercised are more and more deeply affected by science and technology. Today's advanced sciences are therefore essentially characterized by the all-pervading power of scientific knowledge. From a historical point of view, this is a new phenomenon. Its consequences on society as a whole and of science itself are interesting but not easily detectable and fully understandable. Science is being used as a polemical weapon against rivals and competitors. It is a different story when science works for the government or for an international agency sponsored by various governments. Then a strange paradox seems to take place. Science is undoubtedly a tool of government, but at the same time, government and its power are somehow coerced into its service. Between science and power, a curious master-servant relation develops. One has to go back to Hegel, quote, "The servant serves its master, but by serving his master, the servant little by little empathies it, makes him devoid of any original initiative like an absent owner, reduces him to a pure facade and finally replace it. End of the quote. Governments grants money to scientists to achieve certain goals, to conduct research with no knowledge of technical details and procedures and therefore lacking effective control. Thus, science in the end dictates to government what to do, how and how fast. No control is possible without actual knowledge. In the end, policymakers, despite all their rhetorics, are powerless when squared faced by the science. That is a real paradox. We are not often aware of it, and we blame politicians too much. The education has become, education must be viewed as a basic human right, as a value in and of itself, and reviews the evidence on how education builds the human resources that individuals and nations need to be productive, to continue to learn, to solve the problem, to be creative, and to live together and with the nature in peace and harmony. Education needs to be concerned with the manifestation of power, the enlargement in the constitution of power structures, and the order of knowledge and presentation that is appropriate for the power analysis. The power does not only lie in the restriction of institutions and rules, but also in the building nature of pedagogical ideas and images. I found very interesting quotes on education. I can distribute it later. I don't have time to read it. I will just read two of them. One is Henry Peter in his book, The Present State of the Law. He said, education makes people easy to lead, but difficult to drive, easy to govern, but impossible to enslave. And let me just read one for that one. Education is a better safeguard of liberty than a standing army. And I really like this one, which is said by Colin Powell. I cannot think of no more valuable asset to our country than the friendship of future world leaders who have been educated here. And this is a real power. Let me just say a few words on conflict between science and ideology. We all know that Giordano Bruno case. We know Galileo too. We've been aware of Soviet Union ideological in genetics, especially not only in ideological as policy is concerned. And the question is this behind us. I'm not certain, and we are not certain that it is, since there are still big conflicts in ideology and science concerning, say, climate change, evolution of real species, nanotechnology, and so on. So we're still living in different sort of conflict. And against guilty of scientists that they are rational thinking rather than being following dogmas. Because education in science introduces a source of understanding the world not based on ideology and the rules. We are every day really exercising not so crude conflicts as they used to be in the Middle Age, but still very, very present. Conflicts happen because, obviously, of opposition between knowledge versus dogmas and ideology. And that's really, in this short time I was given, only what I wanted. I produced the paper, so who is interested in can go deeply in that paper. Thank you very much.